What's up, guys? Welcome back to Michigan Muckraker. My name's Michelle. Today is July 10th of 2023, and I hope you guys had a wonderful 4th of July. I took the week off. I'm sure that you guys did as well, I hope, at least. It's important to balance enjoying the freedoms that we have left here in America and fighting for those freedoms. So I hope you took time to relax. And now perhaps it's time to get back into the fight. At least that's where I'm at. I'm getting back into it. It's going to be a little slow still for the rest of July. I got a new setup, but July is just so busy for me because it's the nicest month in Michigan of the year. So I hope you guys are enjoying it, going tubing down the rivers and just enjoying Michigan beauty while we have it. So today I'm going to discuss 5 megasites. I'm going to give a summary of these megasites that are spread out across Michigan. And I'm going to share with you the grassroots movement that is being built up in opposition to these megasites across party lines and across religious differences, and all different kinds of people are fighting for Michigan, and it's so good to see. So we are going to jump in. I have a lot to share with you, and I have a new program too, so hopefully this works. All right. So the mega sites that we have, and this is by Ruth Riddle of Flushing, Michigan. The Michigan Economic Development Corporation, the MEDC, under the auspices of Governor Whitmer and Democrat legislator, is encouraging local governments to rezone farmlands for industry and to develop mega sites that will attract developers. Jobs and tax revenues are the incentives. There are 5 sites in various stages of development in Michigan, with more to come, unfortunately. These sites will produce electric batteries for electric vehicles. Now is the time to learn about these mega sites and attend meetings to address the elected officials before the zoning is changed and the land is sold. So first up, we have Mundy Township out of Genesee County. The township board is in the preliminary stages of rezoning a huge tract of land, 981 acres, for industrial. The land is currently zoned for farmland and residential. Eagle Township, Clinton County. The area, which is 1,492 acres, is south of I-96. Michigan State University owns a portion of the land and is interested in selling to a developer. Now, we're going to get into that more later on and updates for all of these. But this Michigan State University land was gifted, and so they shouldn't be doing what they're doing with it. Marshall Township, Calhoun County. Ford wants to develop 1,900 acres for a battery plant along 2.5 miles of the Kalamazoo River. And yeah, they're all near water. It's going to take up all of our water here in Michigan. This is the primary concern, and this is why this is a grassroots movement. Move that right there. Vernon, Durand Townships out of Shiawassee County. Sorry, blanked there for a minute. Preliminary funding of $680 million from the Federal Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, passed through from the MEDC, is for planning development of a megasite. And then, of course, Green Charter Township, Mecosta County, the Chinese subsidiary Goshen Inc. plans to build a battery component plant on the Muskegon River. Goshen states its project will be worth $2.36 billion and bring 2,300 good-paying jobs to the region, allegedly. Other sources state the average pay will be only $45,000. A review by the U.S. Treasury determined that it was not in their jurisdiction. Now, this article is saying the development by Goshen does not violate national security, but that wasn't determined. They just decided they're not even going to look at it because it's not in their department. But that confusion comes from places like Fox News and other mainstream outlets that reported it in a messed up way. So people are a little confused on that, but they never reviewed it. They said, we ain't going to review it because it's not our responsibility. There are 595 abandoned industrial properties in Michigan. I thought this point was well made. It's a different angle to look at. These abandoned sites range from warehouses to heavy industry, like the Packard automotive plant in Detroit. Flint has a plethora of abandoned industrial sites. These properties do not boast the acreage of a megasite, 1,000 acres, but they are industrial zones. Redevelopment is desirable. So build there. Don't go out and buy our farmland and build giant buildings, plants that we don't want there. All of America was once agricultural until industry appropriated farmland and farmers' sons left the field to work in the factories. That was in the late 19th and early 20th century. Rushing to build EV batteries on beautiful farmland in exchange for jobs is myopic. The current push for electric vehicles may fail. They will fail, as did the efforts during the early 20th century and later in the 1980s. EVs will not necessarily replace internal combustion vehicles. The EV plant developers are betting on a high demand for EVs. Well, if this demand does not materialize, the megasites may become the abandoned properties of tomorrow. Now, it's not in the plan for everybody to have an EV. Only certain people will have EVs. But the developers are betting on high demand because governments are paying people to buy these EVs. So it's bribery. So if the game is skewed in their favor using our tax dollars, it's not that demand is authentic. It's not that the people want it. It's that we're being bribed or forced or coerced to pick up an EV. I mean, pretty soon, first comes the carrot, right? And then comes the stick. So right now they're incentivizing, they're bribing, using subsidies and such. But then comes taxes and making owning a gas vehicle pretty much impossible. Your insurance will go up, your taxes will go up, the price of the vehicle will go up, or perhaps you'll have to pay mileage or a carbon tax if you have that kind of vehicle. So the stick comes next, but they're trying to get everybody with a carrot that they can first. That's what they do. Next up, we have, sorry, I should have started this from the top. East and West, Michigan unite to protest MEDC's bad deals at the Capitol. This came out June 27th, so right before 4th of July, individuals from all around the state went to Lansing and protested against the MEDC. The representatives from communities across the state joined together to protest the MEDC's abuse of taxpayer funding for excessive and unwanted development. So, thank you guys, by the way, for joining me. I see now this program shows me there's 2 in here. I hope you guys are doing well and had a good 4th. June 27th, 2023, Lansing, Michigan residents of Big Rapids, Marshall, and Detroit are not defeated after losing recent skirmishes in the media and state senate. Instead, they're joining together to send Michigan Economic Development Corporation and state legislators a clear message. Stop the MEDC's bad development deals. In Marshall, zoning referendum petition signatures pertaining to the 2,000-acre Riverside megasite were rejected last week by the city manager on dubious grounds. The community is taking legal action on the rejection. Residents have been led to believe this is a done deal, said Glenn Kowalski, Marshall resident. That is standard rhetoric used to dissuade people from rejecting projects of this scale. Right, they want us to be apathetic. In Detroit, the New Detroiters for Tax Justice announced their formation to City Council this morning to fight the draconian abuse of tax capture within the city. Representative Russ Bellant cited the most recent example of bills SB 129 to 132 and 289, which could be used to levy up to $1 billion in development costs on Detroiters without payback obligations. In Big Rapids, residents are calling the U.S. Treasury Department's recent denial to review Goshen Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States irrelevant and disingenuous. Green Charter Township's entire board is currently under recall, and signatures to put the township's new zoning committee to a vote have already been turned in with triple the required number of signatures. Meanwhile, Mundy Township residents facing MEDC's Michigan Strategic Fund backed Mundy Megasite have begun to swell township meetings, and Eagle Township residents have launched a recall on Supervisor Patty Schaefer over her support of the Michigan Manufacturing Innovation Campus, a proposed heavy industrial site with multiple plants. On top of these local efforts, communities affected by the MEDC's overreach have been forming alliances against their common enemy. Today, on the lawn of Michigan State Capitol, representatives from 5 different communities from across West and East Michigan joined together to protest the MEDC's bad development deals. Local representatives from Big Rapids, Marshall, Mundy Township, Eagle Township, and Detroit were present, which is awesome. Marjorie Steele is doing a lot of work. This is the website that she built, and as you can see on the top here, she has added Mundy and Eagle. And so this is the centralized hub, so to speak, to help everybody who is fighting in the state of Michigan the MEDC's terrible plans. So thank you, Marjorie, for all your hard work. It's not easy. I have a website that has one article on it because it's a lot of work, and it's not easy. I don't know exactly what I'm doing, but obviously Marjorie does. So thank you. She's being a real bondsmith here and bringing all of these communities together. And so it's 100% necessary. We have someone that's capable of doing that. The rally of 20 attendees brought their message to the MEDC's offices 2 blocks away before returning to the Capitol steps, where representatives each shared details of their community struggle and solidarity with one another. Economic Development Responsibility Alliance of Michigan founder and Big Rapids resident Marjorie Steele closed the rally with a message to legislators and the MEDC. We are tired of being abused, and we are not alone. Big Rapids isn't alone, nor is Marshall, Mundy, Eagle, or Shiawassee, nor even our neighbors in Detroit. None of us are alone. These are not isolated pockets of disgruntled citizens with political axes to grind. This is a politically, socioeconomically, and religiously diverse group of Michiganders who are united in their fight against tyrannical economic development and abuse of taxpayer dollars. In Detroit, it's ravaged schools, libraries, and its stolen hard-earned income from blue-collar workers and community churches. In Big Rapids and Mundy and Marshall, and so many more, it threatens to literally drain the Great Lakes, turning this beautiful, abundant state into a toxic desert. And yes, in many of these, we face selling vast acreages of prime agricultural and residential land to faceless, obtrusely structured multinational corporations which pose serious threats to our community and our national security. Well said. We are Michiganders. We are neighbors. We are tired of our taxpayer dollars being used to abuse our communities. Although there may be little else some of us have in common, beyond that, the abuse is so severe at this point that this common ground alone is enough. Enough for us to unite. We are done being bulldozed by the MEDC. At the end of this video, I want to share with you an article, a story from Substack on political homelessness, which is becoming more and more prevalent in the United States and here in Michigan specifically because neither party represents us. And it's even looking like, for some people, the Libertarian Party doesn't represent them. So if there's no representation in government, who are they working for? Who are they representing? And we're seeing here in Michigan, it's corporations. It's the globalist powers that want to come in using economic development. And we don't get a vote on this stuff. So I am very hopeful. I always want to say that. I am so hopeful that we are going to win. But it is going to be a long battle. We have 7 years until they want their plans to come to fruition. They have this timeline of 7 years, so that's the timeline we have. We have 7 years to stop them. That's how I look at it. This article is extremely long. I highly recommend that you go through it and read it. I'm going to just go through a couple things that I think are really important for us to wrap our head around. So I am going to go through this intro because I think it's funny and it kind of gives a sense of again, the political homeless nature of individuals that were once Democrat or Republican, Libertarian, Green Party, what have you. They are no longer. We are going to a parallel society, going underground. I don't know, but this grassroots movement is not bipartisan. Well, folks, just when you thought things couldn't possibly get any worse, it turns out the Great Lakes are being jeopardized by the Green New Deal. And again, Marjorie Steele, she admits it, I think, a couple times here, but she voted for Whitmer, so she was a Democrat. I am calling her politically homeless now, but she might still call herself Democrat. I'll ask her. But the point being that she is aware that this Green New Deal that most Democrats seem to be for is actually a very dirty industry behind a green mask. So, believe me, I was as surprised as you are, she says. Or maybe I was a lot more surprised than you are. A lot more than me. Either way, it's not where I hoped we'd be in 2023. Civil rights are under attack across the board, thanks to partisan division and Kool-Aid drinking. Small business has been regulated into near oblivion, while multinational corporations run amok with taxpayer-funded welfare. Conglomerates of religious, political, lobbying organizations and wealthy family-funded foundations run the vast majority of our nonprofit and social programs, thanks to the way nonprofit funding is set up. Cost of living is at an all-time high, while wages have stagnated for the last 40 years. Land, both residential and rural, is being bought up by faceless investors, making home and land ownership even less accessible to the working class and independent agriculturalists. Millennials, I know you're looking at this problem and it resonates. It's hard to buy property. Healthcare is effectively unaffordable for all but the wealthy of us, and for those who are grandfathered into the kind of legacy employment healthcare insurance that doesn't exist for today's workers. COVID took what little stuffing we had after the George Floyd protests out of us all, and rates of suicide and depression have reached near epidemic proportions. I say pray for them, because when you get locked in your home, it can be very lonely. So pray for those people who are lonely and thinking of suicide. To say our government is corrupt is an obscenely gross understatement. Also, we might be on the brink of World War III with Russia and China over Ukraine and Taiwan. Let's hope not, but unfortunately, that's what these globalists want. Order out of chaos, right? Oh, and we're destroying our planet with our addiction to industry, PFAS, and single-use plastic packaging. So yeah, I understand that things are pretty bad already, and nobody wants to hear that the solution, our beloved AOC, has come up with to solve climate change is going to destroy our most precious natural resource. Nobody wants it to be true, me least of all. I live in the middle of the Great Lakes. I love them. I love my 35 acres of hardwood forest. I love my delicious, sweet-tasting well water. And I desperately want for industry to stop this insane machine of overconsumption, which is toxifying our air, water, and land. I want to stop buying food that's been grown 2,000 miles away and is wrapped in plastic packaging. I want the allure of green energy to be true. I would love the idea of a green manufacturing 4.0 future for Michigan, where these EV and tech manufacturing plants are sparklingly clear from toxicity and contribute to the local habitats and ecosystems while providing sustainable energy. Where solar gardens and windmill farms produce clean, maintainable, sustainable energy that restores health to our planet and our community. But folks, it's time to fucking wake up. Smell the snake oil. I kind of ruined that. That was a good line. Smell the snake oil. This is not what's happening. This is what they're trying to sell you. This is not what's happening. Remember when, in the wake of 9/11, they passed the Patriot Act? I sure do. Do you remember what it did? It gave the government the right to spy on its own people. That's unpatriotic. Remember when the Supreme Court's upholding of Citizens United in 2010 gave corporations the same rights as people? It wasn't citizens who were united at all. It was corporations against citizens and their rights. My point is that they always brand these sweeping measures as the opposite of what they actually are. It's an in your face sleight of hand that's so bold it actually works. Now, it has worked for a long time, but I am hoping that more and more people are waking up. I mean, I feel that that's what the case is, and that we can stop letting them do that trick on us because it has been used over and over again. And the fact that this Democrat or previous Democrat is sharing this, is saying this, again, gives me hope. This is exactly what is happening. And so the truth will prevail. What I'm saying is that the Green New Deal is dirty as hell. This fly is going to bother me. It's a it's a monstrous, sweeping ecological catastrophe waiting to happen, and it's turned its dark eye upon the Great Lakes and upon my shire. Enough doom slinging, let's talk facts. So, again, I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's awesome, really long, but I'm coming down here. 11 million gallons of water per day. A scientific survey of 28 semiconductor manufacturing facilities worldwide found that the median value for water withdrawal and energy consumption were 1.61 E7 meters cubed and 2.74 E9 kilowatt hours, respectively. So, if we maths that, I'm not good at maths, 16,100,000 cubic meters into gallons, we get that, and 4.25 billion is the number of gallons of water the average semiconductor plant uses each year. Take that in. 4.25 billion. Now, right now, China is basing the is the leader of semiconductor plants. That's not exactly how I wanted to say it, but that's just what came out, so that's what you get. 4.25 billion here in Michigan of our water, gallons of our water, going to the semiconductor plants because we're trying to compete with China. Why are we using the same technology that China's way ahead on? I don't know. Well, I do know, but again, it's not about saving the planet. It's about power, literal power, and centralizing it. If we maths more and divide that by 365, we get an average daily water use of 11.65 million gallons. 11.65 million gallons of water per day is what the average semiconductor plant uses. Now, obviously, the Goshen plant and the Marshall plant are EV battery plants, but the other townships might be in line for a semiconductor plant. So that's why we are discussing it. In the same study, 5 of the 28 semiconductor plants surveyed used more than 36.2 million gallons of water per day. More than 5. That's nearly 20% of semiconductor plants using more than 36 million gallons of water per day. The industry trend is that these plants are using more and more water each year with no signs of stopping. Are you getting scared yet? A Stanford University student observes the following in an academic research paper titled Water Scarcity in the Semiconductor Industry. Richter al. show in their study that in many areas of the United States, freshwater use is exceedingly the natural replenishment rate, leading to abnormally low river flows, especially in Washington, Oregon, Texas, New Mexico, Idaho, California, and Arizona. The study shows that low river flow threatens the local fish population, which may cause major damage to that ecosystem. Their work shows that these states, among others, consume large amounts of water sourced from rivers to produce cattle feed crops and beef. As it turns out, these states are also where many fabs are located in the U.S. For example, Intel has fabs in Arizona, California, New Mexico, Oregon, and Texas. If we compare the total fab water use in the U.S. and look at some of the water it takes to grow crops, we see that they are comparable. For instance, fabs use an estimated 2.23 E9 meters cubed annually in the United States, which is greater than the water it takes annually for any one crop of almond, potato, or barley. Now, I've said it before in this channel, I'll say it again. Everything besides food, water, and shelter is a luxury. And so why are we going to use our water for building microchips and technology that you cannot eat, that will not sustain life, rather than growing food, which we will have a shortage in the next couple years. I don't want it to be true. I'm not the one that's causing it. But the fact is that the fertilizer has gone down 70%. And fertilizer is way more important than we ever realized, I guess, before this COVID hit and the government shut down all kinds of business and completely destroyed our supply chain. So we must be prepared. Now, America right now is buying all of the food from these other countries that were supposed to be for these other countries. So they're going to starve first. And it's terrible. It's terrible to say. It's terrible to think about. And again, we need to send positive vibes, pray, whatever you want to call it. We need to hope that something can be done for those people. But in Africa right now, they are the first. They're at the bottom of the Titanic, okay? And because we have money, we are buying up all the food. And so we're not seeing it yet. But that yet is the key word there. And I'm sorry for getting on a tangent, but it really bothers me that we are exchanging our farmland for these mega sites. Can you read between the lines here? It certainly appears that here in the US, the majority of our water usage has been blamed on the cattle industry, while the semiconductor industry has been just as guilty with no repercussions. I'm no mass meat apologist. I'd abolish mass meat manufacturing, say that 3 times fast, if I had my druthers, and switch to an entirely local model. But that's another subject. The point is the gross lack of accountability for these water and electricity hogging tech plants. Now, that's because these tech plants are for the globalists, and so they don't follow our rules, right? They're sneaking in, using our money and making private plans. Most disconcertingly of all is the question of what happens to all that water. Does it get completely remediated, which is to say cleaned, and put back into the aquifer? Does it turn into toxic waste? Does it all get shipped out in batteries and chips? This is a surprisingly difficult question to answer. A naive person who trusts that adults are running our governmental agencies might assume that all that water is completely purified and mostly put back into the local aquifer the way it came out, in a closed-loop system. Unfortunately, there are no adults in the room. The reality is that it may not be possible to ever remove all the chemicals put into the water used in these semiconductor plants. Regulations and wastewater consultants aim for a maximum acceptable quantity of particulates, which is not the same thing as pure water. These are chemicals that will go into the entire ecosystem. So, I will have this linked. Read it. It's 3,000 beautiful words, important. But I have a lot to share with you, and so I'm going to move over to this real quick. If you do not have time to donate, then you can donate money if you would like. And now on the Idris site, there is a place under More where you can donate. So why donate? Well, for these 3 right here: legal defense, lobbying, and investment. So if you want to donate, here is the address to make the checks and money orders payable to. And again, time or money, you choose whatever you have more of and wish to donate for the cause. We appreciate it immensely. It's all for all Michiganders. So now we're going to check out real quick the Mundy Township Megasite. Some details really quick. $1.5 million already allocated to Flint and Genesee Economic Alliance from the MEDC for the project for site survey, title work, land assembly, control, and acquisition. More funding is earmarked for Mundy and other megasites by the MEDC. It says in 2022, maybe that's what it meant, or maybe it's 2023, but current and nearby property use. Within a half-mile radius of the proposed site, there are 9 major subdivisions, 4 manufactured home communities, 1 elementary school, and 2 daycare centers. Genesee County megasite at 981 acres, it may be considered for the $50 billion semiconductor megasite. The Eagle is the other one that was added. So once again, thank you, Marjorie. Eagle Township is one of the 5 megasites that is shovel-ready. Dave Morris's agricultural endowment sold for heavy industrial. The late local beloved agricultural giant Dave Morris and his wife endowed roughly 1,300 acres in Eagle Township to Michigan State University in 2005 to be used for agricultural purposes for the next 25 years, with contingencies after that intended to support local agriculture. But early in 2023, MSU began to develop plans with local Lansing Economic Area Partnership, LEAP, to rezone and sell the endowment as a multi-plant heavy industrial tech facility, most likely semiconductor. Locals who knew the Morris family, including the Morris family themselves, know this is not what the Morrises would have wanted. Of course not. They were agricultural giants and they fed people. They did something very valuable. Once again, though, MSU has been captured by sustainable development, economic development programs. And I talk a lot about Michigan, but this is happening across the entire United States. And every county you can find an economic development corporation with its hands in the money jar and plans written down and made in private. So this is not a Michigan-only problem, but it's obviously here in a big way. No environmental impact reporting planned. Despite being within a stone's throw of the Grand River and a critical part of Lake Erie watershed, LEAP has indicated no intention of performing an environmental impact study or the studies. They only promise to follow all current substandard regulations guided by the captured eagle. So again, we didn't vote for any of these people, and yet they are making the plans for us, and they are captured. It's this big club. But we're exposing it, and every day more and more people are waking up and joining the fight. So there's hope. There's always hope. They have the money, but we have the soul power, right? We have the bodies. We have the people. Or at least we will by the time 2030 rolls around. All right. Eagle Township. That's the one I just said. This is from the Mecosta Environmental and Security Alliance. They had a new release. Green Charter Township, Michigan. The Mecosta Environmental and Security Alliance, and this is for Goshen, by the way, in Big Rapids, has called on Green Charter Township officials to cease any further negotiations with Goshen on the creation of a development agreement with the company until the standing national security questions are answered. Late last month, the U.S. Department of Treasury Committee on Foreign Investment determined that they did not have proper jurisdiction to conduct a review of the company, therefore leaving many national security questions still unanswered. Goshen has not been cleared. Contrary to their company's spin on the matter, they simply have not been investigated. According to the biography on the World Economic Forum website, Goshen President Li Chen is a member of the CPPCC of Baho District in Hefei City, China. The CPPCC is part of the Chinese Communist Party. United Front system is wholly controlled by the CCP. The Goshen Articles of Association, their founding documents, require that the company carries out party activities in accordance with the Constitution of the Communist Party of China, all the way down to the grassroots level of the company. This type of language, lack of transparency by the company, the shroud of secrecy in which the project was pursued, along with many elected officials signing non-disclosure agreements to prevent public scrutiny of the deal, have alarmed local residents and whose voices are being ignored by local officials who are now subject to a recall effort. In Green Charter Township, if Green Charter Township officials, who are all under recall, sign a binding development agreement with Goshen against the will of the local residents, this action would be unethical at best and possibly illegal. So thank you to MESA, and I will leave their link down below. You can donate to that website as well, if you so choose. Environmental group forms to oppose Goshen plant. So this is just an announcement for MESA. A group calling itself Mecosta Environmental and Security Alliance has formed to oppose the planned Goshen electric vehicle battery component factory and Mecosta County. The nonprofit organization is seeking to stop the construction of Goshen Plant in Green Charter Township, citing environmental and national security concerns. The organization aims to raise awareness, educate the community, and fund legal efforts to stop the construction of this facility. The board of directors for the organization includes local community leaders Jason Cruz, Bruce Baker, Terry Hook, Mary Inglesman, and former Congressman and Ambassador Peter Hoekstra. Ambassador Hoekstra has been a tremendous ally to our work, and we are thrilled to have him on the MESA board, working side by side with our community as we take the next step forward to stop Goshen from taking over our home. MESA President Jason Cruz said in a statement, "The plant acted as a flashpoint to Michiganders after September 23 letter, the MEDC offering Goshen up to $1.14 billion in subsidies, counting state, local, and utility incentives. $1.14 billion. I can't imagine $1 billion, can you? And we're talking about trillion on the federal level, so billions, that nothing. Those tax breaks include $125 million critical industry program grant for a local job creation requirement, 30-year Renaissance zone to Mecosta County valued at $540 million, and a $50 million strategic site readiness performance-based grant. Now that $50 million went to the right place, and they had $20 or $30 million that they already had plans for, but the rest of it they didn't know, and they didn't know what they were going to do with it. That was the last I heard. And they didn't know if there was extra, if it would go back. Of course it won't, into taxpayer coffers, but again, of course it won't. That $20 million is probably all the bribes that were put into place to get this snuck in. Some oppose the 30-year tax break offered to the company, while others worry about Goshen's connections to the CCP. Goshen insists that it isn't controlled by the CCP. Yes. All right, we have several important meetings that I want to shout out really quick. Tomorrow, Green Charter Township monthly board meeting for the Goshen plant, July 11th at 7 p.m. Wednesday, Stop the Marshall Megasite midweek protest in Marshall, of course. Friday, July 14th, this is new, a No Goshen weekly freedom rally. So after talking to Marshall, they've obviously gotten some ideas. So that's pretty cool. That's going to be 3:30 to 5:30 in Big Rapids, Michigan, again on Friday. And then Saturday, they have Save Marshall weekly protest at noon. And July 15th, they have the No Goshen River Rally, which you're going to float down the river with some No Goshen signs saying, or yes, keep Michigan River clean. Again, another great idea because it is prime time for tubing or kayaking or canoeing. And so why not promote awareness to a bunch of partiers going down the river? I mean, you're enjoying this river right now, and it's endangered. And in case you didn't know, like spreading awareness, it's a really perfect idea. I would like to hit one up if they do it every Saturday for the summer. Maybe I'll take my kayak and go down. Very cool. They launch at 3 o'clock, so everyone's meeting up 2:30, Hemlock Park in Big Rapids, Michigan. Very cool. I have more right here. So we have Mundy Township board meeting Monday today. Well, it says 10 a.m., so it should be going on right now. The board meeting Monday, July 24th at 7 p.m. and a zoning board of appeals Wednesday, July 26th at 7 p.m. All meetings are at 3478 Mundy Avenue in Mundy Township. So again, if you can't donate money, that's no problem. Donate time. If you can get to these board meetings and let them know, hey, we don't want this. There are a lot of us. Don't let them lie to you, saying that we're just paid protesters. We're people that live here in Michigan and love our rivers, our lakes, and our forests. Swartz Creek board meeting today, 7 p.m., Monday, July 10th. Planning Commission Tuesday, July 11th at 7 p.m. DDA, Downtown Development Authority, Thursday, July 13th at 6 p.m. Zoning Commission of Appeals, Wednesday, July 19th. And a board meeting Monday, July 24th at 7 p.m. This is all at 8083 Civic Drive, Swartz Creek, Michigan. And then lastly, Flint Township, they have a road advisory committee today at 3 p.m. Board of Appeals, July 12th. That's this Wednesday at 5. Planning Commission, Thursday, July 13th at 6. And a Board of Trustees meeting Monday, July 17th at 6 p.m. And these are all held at 1490 Dye Road, Flint, Michigan. And it's not up here, but there is a Muskegon River Watershed Assembly meeting next week, Monday at 5:30. So I will hopefully be attending that, and there should be a presentation by the No Gosheners as long as they didn't resend. After that meeting, I do have a video on the Muskegon River Watershed Assembly that I'm putting together, but I wanted to wait until after our presentation to that board. It is a nonprofit, so they don't have to listen to us, but they are right now. So I am not going to do anything to jeopardize that presentation. So that's why I'm waiting on that meeting or that video. The Michigander says no. And I'm sorry, but I don't know what you're saying no about. If you could enlighten me, I would appreciate that. Sorry, I just saw your comment. Real quick shout out. There's all kinds of notifications. It's time to recall Jim Chapman. So, Chapman mistreats residents who question his decisions. I've seen this myself. He has been extremely unprofessional. He's supposed to be a board supervisor that's representing Green Charter Township, and he has not been professional at all, and his online conduct is incredible. I can't believe that he goes on and says some of the stuff he says. Chapman refuses to survey residents on their concerns about Goshen. I have mentioned this, $220 an hour for the lawyer that they use, but they didn't want to waste the money on a survey. Chapman wants a giant gigafactory on top of her valuable watershed. Chapman mismanaged the Green Haven Sewer Fund. Sign the petition at Majestic Frisian's Horse Farm. Paris Archery, 21820 Northland Drive, Tuesday, July 11th from 4 to 7, Thursday, July 13th from 4 to 7, and Saturday, July 15th from 10 to 2. So if you want to sign this petition, these are the locations and the times to do so. I encourage you to do, unless you think that he is a good representative for Green Charter Township, in which case I politely disagree. Fed up with being ignored, Michiganders fight back against the Megasites. Michigan taxpayers in the communities of Green Charter Township, Eagle Township, and the city of Marshall didn't believe that their voices are being heard. Don't believe they're being heard about the opposition to Megasites being proposed in their small town. This came out June 26th. So Michigan News Source, I have several articles by them today, and they're doing pretty good work, I think. Overwhelmingly, in interviews and during local governmental meetings, impacted residents and taxpayers of these locations have stated their opposition to these large developments based on issues, including environmental concerns about the impact of community land and water and animals, as well as traffic issues, a lack of transparency, the signing of NDAs, and foreign ownership of the companies involved. These concerned local residents have said over and over again that they feel they are being bulldozed by Governor Whitmer, the Democrats, and their economic partners in the state government, including MEDC, the nonprofit LEAP, and Grand Rapids is the right place. This is in addition to a web of private industry that supports them, that has people involved who some are pointing to having conflict of interest, including Farm Bureau Insurance of Michigan, whose CEO, Donald Simon, also sits on the board of LEAP as their treasurer and CEO. Other possible conflicts of interest in Randy Thelen, the CEO of Right Place, who was recently appointed to MEDC's Michigan Strategic Fund Board by Governor Whitmer herself. The Right Place has received grant money from the MEDC. Some opponents of the development contend that some of these projects have been in the work for years, giving the state of Michigan a leg up their game plan to push forward with a strategy to seek out projects that will bring battery plants and microchip manufacturing to the state of Michigan with the help of millions in taxpayer dollars. In Eagle Township, a recall petition is moving forward for Supervisor Patty Schaefer. They are recalling her based on her signing of NDA, non-disclosure, concerning the Megasite, which the state refers to as the MMIC, Michigan Manufacturing Innovation Campus. The petition says the NDA limited the information available to Eagle Township resident affected by the potential development. So, again, the biggest thing with all these people is that we didn't get a say. They're using our money and they're forcing these projects upon us. We want a say. Grassroots Coalition converges on Lansing to share concerns and opposition. So they're just reporting on what Marjorie reported on as well. We are joining together to fight the MEDC. Environmentalists quiet on Michigan megasites. Now I'm going to get into this one. This came out July 6th, so just a few days ago. With thousands of acres of Michigan farmland, wetlands, and other wildlife-friendly habitats on the chopping block to make way for EV battery or semiconductor plants, one would think environmentalists would be up in arms that these projects are moving full steam ahead without some say in as much consideration to the possible environmental destruction that the developments might cause in the immediate and foreseeable future. But instead of doing what most would call due diligence, by having environmental studies done ahead of time and analysis brought to the communities in question so that the facts can be debated, these development projects, many of which have been reported to have started years ago, continue to move ahead, hidden behind non-disclosure agreements, while the residents near these megasites are told that their concerns about the environment are unjustified and unwarranted. Hi, Jessica. She says, hey, good to see you today. Jumped in a little late. Keep up the good work. Look forward to everyone at the signing of petition signatures and the town hall meeting tomorrow at 7, stopping these agendas. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you for joining. Thanks for the comment. I hope it has a huge turnout for those recalls. And, of course, the Green Charter Township meeting and all those meetings. Mum's the word with little or no pushback from groups like Ducks Unlimited, Pheasants Forever, and Michigan Nature Association, Michigan Audubon, the Sierra Club's Michigan chapter, the Nature Conservancy, Flow of the Love of Water, and Michigan Farm Bureau, or any other organization who purports to exist to be in business of protecting Michigan's farmlands, wetlands, land usage, animals, insects, birds, water usage, or water quality. So thank you for this list, basically, of leads, because all of these different companies, or rather nonprofit organizations that are supposed to protect the environment, they're not saying anything. They're oddly quiet. Now, I can almost guarantee you that all of these have ties to the United Nations Agenda 2030. And I will look into it. I can't tell you for a fact right now, but I would bet money, if I had any to bet, that there are ties to United Nations Agenda 2030. That's why they're not talking, because this is a part of that agenda. And so the real power, unfortunately, is not saving the planet. It's not the people. It is these globalists and their agendas. That's what these individual nonprofits are actually reporting to. That's who they're responsible to, and they just say that they want to help the ducks. But again, I'm going to look into it. Maybe I can reach out and get a comment from them, but somehow I doubt it. Michigan News Source reached out to all of these organizations to ask them if their organizations stand behind the building of these megasites on farmland and wetlands and in areas that will possibly have an environmental impact on water, land, and wildlife. Here we go. Ducks Unlimited had no comment at this time, but Joe Genzel, communications coordinator of the organization, said, we did recently work to secure $10 million in funding for Michigan wetlands, and we are also working with the AG industry on a cover crop program in Michigan, which promotes soil health and water retention, keeping more sediment and nutrients out of waterways. And although the Michigan Farm Bureau website says they are committed to Michigan farmers and are helping to preserve natural resources for generations to come, they don't seem to be in opposition to the megasites that are going to be bulldozing over thousands of acres of Michigan farmland. Right. It's like a Trojan horse. It's like the Patriot Act or Citizens United. They say that they're for the Farm Bureau, but really they are a Trojan horse against the farmers for the globalists. That's really what's going on. The Michigan Farm Bureau of Companies responded to the question about supporting the megasites by saying the Michigan Farm Bureau family of companies is comprised of several companies, two of which are Michigan Farm Bureau and Farm Bureau Insurance. As a community partner that employs more than 1,000 employees, the family of companies had a vested interest in economic development and attracting a talented workforce to our area. The response continues by saying Farm Bureau Insurance, like many mid-Michigan businesses, is a member of the Lansing Economic Development Partnership, which is comprised of more than 50 prominent local businesses and organizations with a common goal to grow, retain, and attract business to the Tri-County area. Michigan Farm Bureau's member-driven grassroots policy is decided upon collectively by our farmer members on an annual basis. Our current policy supports the private property rights of landowners, land use decisions being made by locally elected township zoning and planning officials, and encourages our members to become actively involved in land use planning and rezoning. It should be noted Donald Simon, the CEO of Farm Bureau Insurance of Michigan, also sits on the board of LEAP as their treasurer and CEO. So yes, that conflict of interest right there. It appears that only the citizens who live in and around the areas of the proposed sites and a new organization called IDRA are asking questions and sounding the alarm on the possible environmental destruction in the state that might be caused by these proposed megasites. So, we the people are waking up and we want to hold them accountable. And of course, they're doing a lot of name calling and a lot of lying about our movement, but we know the truth, and as long as we stick to the truth, it will prevail. IDRA says that there are no economic impact reports for Eagle Township, the City of Marshall's Blue Oval Battery Park, or the Goshen plant near Big Rapids. Additionally, the amount of water needed for these projects and possible water contamination is a major concern. This is a very long article. I will leave it linked down below, but the general idea is that these environmental nonprofits are mum. They're quiet. I am going to dig in and find out what I can about why that is, so I have proof to show you and not just what my gut tells me. This is out of Michigan Capital Confidential. Michigan House Committee approves $120 million more for Ford Marshall site. Michigan Daffodil says, good morning, listening while I water the garden. Oh, I love gardening. I hope yours is going as well as mine. I need to rebury my onions a little bit, but otherwise my garden is doing very well this year despite not having much rain. A lot more watering involved, of course, but again, gardening is a beautiful activity and growing food is something we should all know how to do. I would like to have some backyard chickens too, but I know they're a lot of work. The Michigan House Appropriations Committee approved Tuesday $120 million legislative transfer towards preparations for Ford Motor Company's upcoming Marshall plant. A local group, the Marshall Area Economic Development Alliance, will be granted the funds if the Senate Appropriations Committee grants its approval. The request for legislative transfer 2003-2004 explains how the funds would be used. This state investment would support land acquisition, site preparation, water and wastewater upgrades, and other necessary public infrastructure improvements at the strategic Marshall megasite, while the Ford Motor Company's new electric vehicle battery manufacturing facility, Blue Oval Battery Park, is proposed to be located. Ford's total incentives for the $3.5 billion project amount to about $1.6 billion in state and local taxpayer aid once local and tax incentives are taken into consideration. Why are we giving these huge companies, these very wealthy companies, billions of dollars in tax incentives? Because the funds were already appropriated to the Michigan Strategic Site Readiness Program, a corporate welfare effort meant to prepare sites, only a legislative transfer was required, not a vote of the full legislature. For legislative transfers, approval comes from the House and Senate appropriation committees, not the full House and Senate. This means that only about 1/3 of lawmakers have a say in the matter. That is a huge problem. If you're thinking, you have to realize that's a huge problem. Why only 1/3? The Senate Appropriation Committee needs to approve the transfer for it to take effect. The committee will meet Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. That meeting has no official agenda, but legislative transfer 2023, 4, and 3 others await approval. Now, this came out June 28th, so unfortunately, that meeting Wednesday morning already occurred. Last week, the U.S. Department of Energy announced $9.2 billion in loans to Ford for 3 upcoming electric vehicle battery facilities, 2 in Kentucky and 1 in Tennessee. Despite that, Ford is still shedding jobs. Reports say 1,000 people are being laid off. That's coming. 1,000 layoffs are coming. Last year, Michigan lawmakers approved $100 million for Ford to hire 3,030 factory workers. 2 months. 2 months later, Ford laid off 3,000 white-collar and contract workers. The jobs thing is just a front. This is funneling money to their friends. Now, I've been looking into the Michigan Economic Development Corporation and the origins. I had a viewer ask me about it, and I thank that viewer immensely for the rabbit hole, is because it has been very fruitful. But GM, I'm not going to get into all of it in this video. I have a lot to go still, but GM is involved, okay? The CEO of GM was once the CEO of the MEDC. So, of course, tons of connections, tons of corruption. And again, I thank that individual for the rabbit hole. It's been quite fruitful. So this is from June 27, 28. Opponents sue to stop Marshall Megasite. So ongoing dispute between the city of Marshall and some residents on the future Ford battery plant have escalated to a lawsuit. The lawsuit, filed in Calhoun County Circuit Court Tuesday, comes a month after the committee for Marshall, not the Megasite, challenged some of the rezoning for this project. After the group learned petition was denied by the city, members said they were left no choice. So they are starting the legal process. Diane Kowalski, one of 8 plaintiffs in the suit, believes the city clerk's office deeming the petition insufficient was unconstitutional, even though it had almost double the required amount of signatures. She says that, according to her interpretation of the city charter, its only committee members, which there are 5, could collect signatures, said Kowalski. That is one of our points in the lawsuit, that goes against the First Amendment. The lawsuit also claims adding an appropriation to the rezoning process, which can't be challenged by a petition, violated the city's charter. Ordinances can only be one subject, so we feel they put the appropriations in there on purpose so that it couldn't go to referendum, said Kowalski. As construction continues on the battery plant, Kowalski believes the group members have built a better case for the court to respect their say and restore their vote. Let the people vote. We spent a lot of time, a lot of people, a lot of hours working to get those signatures. 810 people said they wanted a vote. What we want is for the people's voices to be heard. I don't understand why the city wouldn't let a vote. Well, of course, because they know that the people don't want it, but they don't care what we want. They have their own plans. They're going to push it on us if they can. But we're not going to let them. We're going to keep fighting the good fight. Marshall City Manager Derek Perry provided a statement to News 8 on Wednesday, saying the city was confident in its actions. Oh, here we go. We support the city clerk's certification of insufficiency determination on June 16, 2023, and we will vigorously defend the city's position in court. We are confident the facts will show that the individuals behind the effort ignored the city charter and failed to properly gather a sufficient number of valid signatures to attempt to overturn the unanimous city council decision to rezone the property. We know there is a broad community support for this project, And we remain excited about the potential for the Blue Oval Battery Park to create thousands of local jobs, including jobs for young people, so they aren't forced to leave our area to find opportunities. Again, that last line that's a lie. Young people are not bound by a physical location for their job because of remote work. Young people know how to go online and find jobs, a lot of them, and that's where they want to work. So the location isn't as big of a deal because of remote work. So do you really think young people are going to want to move next to a huge battery plant? No. That's going to take these locations out of millennial and zoomers' eyes. They don't want to live next to a battery plant. They want to live in the woods. So I hate when they say that. It's not that's not true. It's not what's really going on. They say we want young people to come. They will if you don't build the battery plants. This is out of I keep wanting to say Shiawassee. I'm sorry. I just heard about this county recently, so I apologize. County rejects purchase option offer for city-owned property. Citing concerns about the unknown impact of a potential advanced manufacturing megasite in eastern Shiawassee County, the Swartz Creek City Council has turned down an offer for an option to purchase city-owned land within the targeted development area. This is good news. This is very good news. The City Council was listening. For more than 50 years, the city has owned about 11 acres near Leisure Lake in Shiawassee County. With the 16-inch concrete water main on site, the land previously held a pump station and served as a wellhead to deliver portable water to Swartz Creek residents before the city hooked up to the Genesee County water system. Now, as the Michigan Economic Development Corporation identifies large tracts of property to market to advanced manufacturing companies, the farmland of eastern Shiawassee County has caught their eye. Now, real quick, advanced manufacturing, that is Industry 4.0. I'm going to be doing a video very soon on exactly what Industry 4.0 is and why it matters to every Michigander. Everybody in the United States and the world, really, but we're going to focus on Michigan for obvious reasons. The Shiawassee Economic Development Partnership is working with the MEDC package and market to package and market the property. So there you go, another economic development little minion, right? The SEDP offered the city $2,000 for a 3-year option to buy. The option would require to sell the property. The option would require the city to sell the property if the SEDP or the end user chose to invoke the option. A final sale price likely would fall between $176,000 and $275,000. City Manager Adam Zettel said the ultimate use of the property remains undetermined. I want to know what they might be putting in the back 40, Zettel said. About 10 years ago, there was considerable speculation about a large steel processing facility being built near Durand. The development, known as Project Tim, never came to fruition. We had some concerns with Project Tim, Zettel said. They were talking about a smelting facility. We didn't want that. We don't want to wreck our town. Zettel said the city might be interested in being a partner in a future sale, depending on the buyer and the proposed use of the property. But I am not comfortable committing this council or a future council to selling property to a user we might not want 6 miles upwind. Very intelligent. He obviously must live in that town. Councilman John Knickerbocker agreed. We are not going to commit our constituents to something in which we have no knowledge of what the buyer would be. Councilman Nathan Henry also spoke in opposition to the sale option. I'm against it because public sentiment seems against the Megasites, Henry said. He's working for the people. I approve. Nathan Henry, thank you. We need more people that actually listen to the constituents they're supposed to work for. He added that he would support the city accepting a small amount of money in exchange for agreeing not to sell the property to anyone else for 3 years. I don't know about that. You got to be careful about making any deal with the devil, be it small or big. We are kind of in the driver's seat, said Councilman David Spillane. if they want that property, they will come a-knocking. We have a 16-inch water main that was usable at one time. No matter what goes in, they're going to want water. So we're kind of in the driver's seat on dictating what goes there. Zettel City will continue to discuss the matter with the SEDP. So keep your eye out. It ain't over till it's over on either side. But obviously, money does a lot of talking, and they're throwing around our taxpayer dollars, so they have plenty of money. So we got to be careful that our politicians don't get bought and paid for. This is actually all the way from back in March. Eagle Township residents fear Megasite and MSU farmland. I have already done a little review on that. Basically, they're selling land that is meant for agriculture, and MSU is not abiding by what they said they would do with that land. So I will leave this down below so you can check it out. But it just summarizes exactly what's going on with Michigan State University and the land that they're misusing. Now, big news here. Michigan funneled $2 billion into luring big business. Here's where it went. This is MLive, so, it's surprising that they're listing all of the money that they spent, but in a way, I guess they don't care, right? MLive probably thinks it's just fine that we're using taxpayer dollars to bribe companies that we don't even want to come here and buy our land, but they're going to tell us exactly where that money's going. Almost 2 years ago, Ford Motor Company chose Tennessee for an $11 billion investment called Blue Oval Battery Park, snubbing its home state of Michigan. And it stung. I'm always looking to make Michigan more competitive and always eager to put solutions on the table, but we need a real opportunity to do that, Governor Gretchen Whitmer said at the time, and that really wasn't the case here. In response, Michigan lawmakers fast-tracked legislation at the end of 2021 to pour $1 billion into a fund that would attract big business investments. The Strategic Outreach Attraction Reserve, or SOAR, has since ballooned into a total $2 billion as state lawmakers have greenlit 3 additional deposits into the fund. SOAR dollars are awarded to the Michigan Strategic Fund before being kicked back to the House and Senate Appropriations Committees for final approval. Nearly 3/4 of the fund has been spent in the past year and a half, bankrolling projects from General Motors, Ford Motor Company, and startup Our Next Energy, among others. So, December 2021, $1 billion went to In December 2021, Michigan lawmakers approved creating the $1 billion SOAR fund to offer incentives for businesses interested in building new manufacturing or commercial sites in the state. Whitmer then signed the legislation, said the business community had historically viewed Michigan as lacking in incentives, unwilling to compete with other states politically dysfunctional. This is not the only way to compete. In case you didn't know, you don't have to bribe companies. You can just lower taxes for everybody and see what companies come based on supply and demand. That's how it should work. We have put that whole narrative behind us and we are moving forward together. September 28, 2022, $846 million was put back into the SOAR fund because the 3 projects drained the billion. Supplemental bill earmarked $846 million for the Economic Development Fund. This move prompted Rep. Thomas Albert from Lowell to resign from his post as chair of the House Appropriations Committee while calling the bill reckless and irresponsible to taxpayers. January 31st of this year, $150 million. Governor Gretchen Whitmer signed a bill on January 31st that allocated another $150 million into cash-strapped fund. March 8th of this year, $170 million. A $1.3 billion spending bill passed by lawmakers in March included $170 million for future SOAR projects. That bill separately included $630 million for a Ford battery plant that was already awarded $210 million. A tax break valued at $774 million, and a $36 million loan to the Marshall Economic Development Alliance. In total, the SOAR deposits have added up to $2 billion since the fund was created. Is that $1 billion? Yes, $2 billion. But as soon as the money goes in, withdrawals pull funding out. SOAR spending March 9th, 2022, 666.1 million. Only a few weeks after Michigan created the SOAR fund, 2/3 of it, totaling 66.1 million, was awarded to General Motors. In January 2022, the Detroit automaker announced plans to invest $7 billion and create 4,000 jobs. I mean, can you believe how much money they're spending? I can't. July 1st, 2022, another 100 million, 100.8. Ford announced a $2 billion investment last June will be scattered across 3 assembly Michigan plants and a Monroe customer service facility. The Dearborn automaker expects to create 3,200 union jobs with the investment. Jeez, I mean, it goes on and on. December 7th, 60 million. April 13th, 200 million. April 13th, 210 million. April 20th, 175 million. That was Goshen. 250 million back to the SOAR fund, includes 25 million for grants to be used, site assessments, 150 million for improvement to strategic sites, and 75 million to development of megasites. So again, that's $75 million to develop megasites that we don't want. That's what's going on here in Michigan. Now, we know that these plants have fire hazards, but one just happened. This was June 26th, and it was what the fire crews encountered was lithium. And when the lithium burned, it created a lava-type product. Luckily, no one was hurt. It happened at night. It just randomly started on fire. So that's what we have to look forward to with all these battery plants. Another one, defective battery incident sparks safety demands in General Motors' Ultium plant amid UAW contract talks. So you have Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, is involved, but they're supposed to protect the people. I don't believe it. They'll just make backdoor deals. Democrats, now the party of handouts to the rich. Now, once again, I know so many individuals that once called themselves Democrats or Republicans and now consider themselves politically homeless because of actions like this. We aren't being represented. No taxation without representation. What happened to that? That's, that was a short. It was a short on Facebook, actually. And this is Jordan Peterson. If you've never heard of Jordan Peterson, I highly recommend you check him out. He's got a lot of good stuff out there, but he's absolutely right on what net zero means. They're still going to fly around to Davos in their private jets, but we won't be able to have cars. So this movement is, unfortunately, we're using our own tax dollars towards our own enslavement to not have any freedom. And so once again, Freedom Day was just last week, and we are in a fight for it. We need to fight for freedom. It doesn't come free. And every day our freedoms are being eroded, but every day more and more people are being affected by that erosion, and they are waking up and want to do something about it. So the last thing I want to share with you is just this very quick story from a politically homeless person, as I am myself, and perhaps you are as well. It's like Harry Potter. Real people, real letters, real problems, and no solutions. Michigan Daffodil says, I'm not surprised. Look up solar panel company that opened in Greenville, Michigan in 2008-ish and closed in 2012-ish. I'll send an article as a jumping off point to research if you want. I would love that. I'm always a fan of leads. Anything that has to do with economic development or Industry 4.0 or Michigan, I want to look into it. So please send it. You can send it to my email if you wish. You could not hear the video. Oh, okay. Thank you for letting me know. I'm sorry about that. I am unsure why. I will have to look into it. Again, I have a StreamYard, so I apologize for that. I'll figure that out. Politics these days have become so divided and divisive that it's become the norm to view the other side of the aisle as the enemy. People are being told to pick a side and that there's no room for middle ground. We here at, I don't even know how to say that, Petsy, believe that there are a lot more people in the middle than politicians and the media would have us believe. We've been collecting stories from the ever-growing number of people who are finding themselves politically homeless and posting them here on Substack. If you have moved from conservative to liberal or liberal to conservative, if you feel you've stayed in the same place and your party has swerved drastically away from you, if you had a moment that awakened you to the insanity and hypocrisy on both sides, if you keep your mouth shut anytime a political topic comes up because you're afraid your opinion will cause you to lose a friend or your job, you're not as alone as you might think. Our goal is to shine a light on people's earnest individual experiences and show them that they're not alone. Some letters have been edited for clarity and brevity. If you're politically homeless and would like to share your story, please email. So if you want to share, I would recommend emailing them. I think that these stories are very uplifting, and I want to try to end my videos on an uplifting note because I talk about a lot of dark stuff, but I have much hope for the future. The good always wins in the end. It's always darkest before the dawn. And so I want to leave you feeling like you're not alone, there's hope, and we will win. So that is my goal for this channel, to try to find something at the end to share. So today I have this. Letter 44 came to them on 3/3/23. Hear me out. I've read comments on your posts, and I've noticed a few common threads. The one I'll bring up now is that people are waiting on someone to step up and be the good leader they've been waiting on to bring forth the Enlightenment. It made me think of the scene in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, where he believes his father is going to rescue him. He waits, he hopes, and then he takes matters into his own hands. He wasn't actually waiting on his father. He was waiting on himself to step up, to enter the arena, as Teddy Roosevelt famously stated. I guess what I am saying is that we can all play our own role. As a person who manages a team, I know I can't do all the caring for them. I can't do their work. It wouldn't be a lasting effect to drag others along. What does work and what does last are a series of intentional nudges that will open their eyes to what the possibility of hard work can bring to their life. Individual success is the culmination, many steps along a direction, not toward a destination. If we want the world to be better, we must start with our own world, our own household, and then maybe our household can influence others. This is my first draft, and I've not edited. Cheers. Politically homeless. I myself have recently thought of that same scene where Harry ends up saving himself after he realizes no one is going to come save me. So that's how it is in real life. A lot of fictional stories have truth within them. Harry Potter is no exception. It's why it captured the hearts and minds of millennials. There is a lot of truth in it, and the truth is we have to step up and be the leaders that we want to see in the world. We have to clean our own room. And by doing so, if every single person clean their room and then clean their yard and clean their community, then the world will be clean, would it not? So it starts with yourself. I thank you very much for hanging out with me, Michigan Daffodil. I appreciate you sticking with me and letting me know about that video. I might be able to find out. I mean, I will find out what exactly happened, and I'll try to share it again because it is just a short, but it's really important to understand. And I'll have it linked in the description, by the way, as well. So it was a very long video today. I'm back. I had to stretch out. Feels like I haven't done this in a long time, even though I just took a week off. And so hopefully I get back into the rhythm of things and bring you more content that you need to hear so that you can arm yourself for this battle that will be happening for the next 7 years. So I can do this. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Have a good time. Good day.